who's going to be talking to us about keyword research. Thank you for being here, Trinity.
Yeah, awesome.
So happy to have you here. So it usually takes a couple minutes for people to start hopping on with us. So I'm going to pull this up on my phone to make sure that we have sound and visual and all that good stuff. And if we do, looks like we might.
So happy to have you here.
Yay! Sound works.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Heather. So we're here with Trinity. She's going to be teaching us about keyword research, which is one of the most important things when it comes to SEO. As we get people hopping on here, why don't you just tell us about yourself and your business?
Sure. So I've been working online since 2013. Yes. Okay. So my son was born in 2013. I started working then. At the time, I worked at a call agency, like a debt collection agency, and I hated it, to be honest. And so I was like, I've got to be able to do something. I want to stay home with my son. So I just hopped on and basically posted a random ad on Craigslist, and then a business that was local to me but online reached out, and I started working for him. I was like, this is so cool, like I can make a little bit of money at home. And I was able to stay home pretty much right away because I also had my husband working too. And so he kind of started teaching me SEO. Like back then it was different. I definitely wouldn't say I was a pro back then by any means, but I started learning at that point. And since then, so I started my blog, The Pay at Home Parent, which is kind of what I also offer services under. So I do SEO services as well. And it's all kind of under that branch, the Pay at Home Parent. And I started that in 2018. And I was like, you know what, I can do SEO now. But I have to prove or show that I can do it on my own site because it is different stepping into an established business. So that's why I started that. And that's kind of been slow because it's not like, bam, I went full time on a blog because I was already making good money offering services as an SEO. So it's definitely been a slower drive, but it works. Just like they say, SEO takes time. So I kind of started it, let it sit for a while and get, in the eyes of Google, I kept posting to it. So that's kind of my backstory of how I got started actually blogging. But definitely started out as a freelance SEO, which I learned very quickly was quite different than being able to talk to people like from a blog.
Yes. Yeah. It's very different. Lucy said her baby was born in 2013 too. I feel like as moms, we always kind of base our business when it started. Everything is based off the year our baby is born because I'm like that too.
That's awesome.
So Trinity works for the Pay at Home Parent is her site, and it's your site is all focused on helping moms make money from home.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So tell us about, since you are our SEO expert and we have a million questions about keywords, tell us about keywords. Keywords, what are they? Keyword research, are they important? What do bloggers need to know about keywords?
So if you were starting from scratch and you're like, what is a keyword? It's literally if you're going onto Google as a user and you say, I want to look up how to do something, you type out how to do something. That is literally your basic keyword. So when you go to write about it, you are crafting a piece around that initial, or those, you could do multiple, those initial keywords that real people are typing into Google to find your answer.
Yes. And I think that, well, we talk about this all the time here in the group. We tend to overcomplicate stuff as bloggers in general. What are keywords? What are keyword phrases? How many keywords can I use? We just tend to overcomplicate things. And when we start doing that, myself included, excuse me, when we start doing that, I feel like the most important thing is to kind of go back to your basics of what does any human type into Google when they're searching for something. Like you said, SEO used to be a different story, but now every human uses Google to search for everything. And so really it's just pulling up those keywords and, responding to a query that somebody's actually searching for online. It's really that simple.
It's so basic.
So how can we find keywords that we can actually rank for if we're a smaller blogger or have a newer blog that doesn't have a lot of domain authority?
Yeah. So the best way, like, let's say you are a new blogger and you have like a 1 to 5 domain authority. It's hard to just say, now I must write based on a 1 to 5 domain authority. Like, that's a little bit too basic, because your plan is to be, soon, if you keep posting and you post good content, you should hit a 10, even a 15 within your first year. So when you're looking for something you want to rank for, look at your competition. So let's say you picked your niche you're a fisher. You want to talk about fishing and all things fishing hooks and bobbers. And, I'm trying to pick a niche that's not going to like exploit anybody. Probably nobody here is in the fishing. So that's why I picked that. So you're looking for other people who blog or sell fishing stuff. Basically, when you pick a keyword, you're going to try to find something that somebody with a domain similar to you are posting. So let's say I want to blog about how to fish. You want to start with the most basic thing, and you type in how to fish, and all these big, huge companies come up, and they have like 99 domain authority. You're not going to rank for it. But that doesn't mean don't write it. I want to be clear. If you want to have some internal, very basic tutorials that you might not rank for, I've always said that's totally fine to write those. You're going to do a lot of interlinking to them anyway. And if you happen to get somebody through another means, you're going to want to teach them how to fishing if that's your niche. But then you're going to go out into some more, like, what is the best bobber for a pond, or what is the best hook for a trout? You're going to start getting more basic with your keywords, and you're going to start answering these keywords or these search queries that are coming up on Google. And when you actually type them in, and we'll talk about tools and all that later, but if you have the right tools activated, when you type as a user your keywords into your browser, you'll be able to see things like who's surfacing on the first 1 to 10 results on the first page of Google, and you're going to be able to see what's their domain authority and how likely you are to rank for it also. So that's how and what was the main question? Was it how to find keywords?
Yeah. If we're kind of newer and don't have a lot of authority, how do we find those keywords?
Yeah. So like I said, if you have a 1 to 5 domain authority, don't look for competition that has a 1 to 5 domain authority. Look for competition who has maybe a 10 to 15, because you're going to get there soon enough. You're not going to see a 1 to 5 on page 1 of Google anyway, so that would be kind of hard to base it off of. But when I find keywords, like, it's basically by spying on my competitors. Who have I beat in the past? I like to try that method. Like, if there's a certain site, I'm like, I'm always one above them. So more than likely, I'm always going to be one above them. So if I can find their articles that are ranking on page 1, I'm going to write those, and I'm going to try to grab them.
Yes. That's a really good point too, Trinity, because I think when we're new to blogging, we get nervous about copying, and we get nervous about people having the same type of content. I saw a question in a Facebook group the other day. I saw a blog post that has the same blog title as mine. Is that okay to still publish this blog post? And it's like, of course it is. But at first we're hesitant because we don't want to do anything wrong. So for clarification, everybody, blogging is a business, and a business is a competition. So it is perfectly fine to scope out your competitors, see what they're doing. We're not copying anybody, but somebody on page 1 of Google, they're already doing something right. So let's figure out what they're doing right and learn how to imitate that for our own business, with our own voice, for our own audience. And that's how we're going to get on page 1 too. Does that make sense?
Yep. Now that does not include copying and pasting and then, changing up a few words. I've seen that happen. And honestly, I think some of the people that do it don't know it's wrong. Whereas there's other people who are taking shortcuts and they do, but just to be clear, that's never to, grab their every single header and you still want to make it yours. You can restructure it. You can use the same list items if you're doing a listicle, but just make sure it's yours and coming from your tone, and it's not like sentence by sentence their information.
Right. Not copying their information, but just in our research, seeing what the competition is doing, seeing what they're ranking for. If you can write about topics like that, and make your content better than theirs. I've read a few people say like, hey, if they've got 10 things on their list, you put 15 on your list because your content should be more comprehensive, more keyword variations. And so again, we're not copying anybody. We're just studying the competition to see what's working. Hopefully that makes sense. How long would you say, just generally speaking, I know there's no one set rule, but how long would you say it takes to start ranking for a keyword if it's something that we are in a competitive area that we can actually possibly rank for?
So I work for multiple clients at like different domain levels, DA levels. So let's take mine, for example. I think I'm a 23 right now. And the work from home niche can be you have to get creative because it can be super competitive. But so at a 23, when I go to look for competition and keywords, I'll look for, other DAs that are around there between 20. I might go up to 30 maximum. So when I write something and I picked that keyword because I'm like, I can rank for that. I know I can. Usually when I publish the post, and then everybody's different on this, I like to go right into Google and like ping them and be like, hey, I just wrote a new post. They would probably pick it up within a day or two, but sometimes I'm like, what the heck? I'm going to get it out there faster. There's a way to actually tell them you wrote a new post. But so if I do that, within hours, I could be on page 2 or 3. So let's say I wrote something good and it's on page 2. I also don't freak out because after about Google will kind of hold it there and see what kind of activity happens. And then it will bounce it to say page 3 and then 4. And then sometimes it'll hit page 1. But so this can happen. And this is kind of across the board, but whether you actually hit that page 2 or 3 from the start, or you hit say 10 or above, that's okay. Like this first section or this first time frame is probably going to be, I've seen it as much as 6 months to 6 or 6 weeks to 6 months before a really good post hits page 1. If it goes over 6 months, then something is probably up with the post and you need to do things like get backlinks or reassess your keywords or add to it to kind of tell Google you're updating it. So that's what my rule of thumb is. If it's over 6 months, it's probably not just gonna by itself move up at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Let us know if you let us know if you guys have any questions, and if it's something we can answer quickly, then we'll just answer it right here and now. And if it needs a little more explanation, then we'll try to catch it at the end. Cannot clear my throat. Okay, so let me see what questions we got down so far. Okay, so what kind of keyword research strategy do you recommend for our beginner and intermediate bloggers?
For everybody, I recommend checking out your competitors. That is the number one way to find keywords. So that's the strategy I would, and it's a huge strategy in my book too. I don't think we didn't mention that or anything, but I've written a book on keyword research. It's a big part of that book, and I go in depth how to find your competition and how to assess them and everything. Because if you do nothing else, I mean, I'm trying to think, is there anything else that would tell you this is a great keyword other than knowing what's on the page of Google's page 1? And there's really not. If I would always say to do a live search, if you just popped up, you brainstorm a topic, you're like, I love this topic and it fits, but I want to find keywords that relate, that are super good to the topic, but that I can actually rank for. The best thing to do is to use Google as your source, because anything that pops up on page 1 of Google is going to be your answer. Like, as if you're a live searcher.
Yeah, Google is brilliant at that. If you type in any query, anything you can think of, any question you're asking or searching for, they are going to bring up the absolute best and most relevant content no matter what. So that makes your job a little bit easier. If you type something in, Google already says these 10 results are the absolute most accurate, most popular, most relevant posts that you're going to see on this topic. So dig into that competition and see why they're ranking well. Like Trinity said, if the domain authority is a 90 and my domain authority is a 5, then I'm probably not going to be able to outrank it.
Yeah.
Got to find better keywords for that. Do you use any keyword research tools?
Actually, you just said, if you have a domain of 5 and then 90 pops up, that reminds me, there is a time where you kind of have to make that guess, because let's say you come up with a topic that's so specific, like you're talking about fishing and it is so specific, and you're like, I was fishing myself and I had this question myself and I researched it and this was the answer, or I tested it and this was the answer. And then you go to Google and you type in related phrases and you're like, nobody answered this question. And I'm not talking like something that nobody probably asks either. Like try to balance it out. Hopefully there is a handful of people asking it. But let's say you type it in and a 90 DA does show up, but you go in there and you're like, they don't answer the question. Like that's a huge way to get your foot in the door. Like, even as a DA of 1 to 5, I have seen in some occasions them ranking because the question they're answering is so specific that almost literally nobody has searched for, or has written about. So
solved the problem. Yeah.
So there are the opportunities, and that's why you don't just look at the DAs of your competitors. Sorry, I keep coming back to this because it is so huge, but
so important. Yeah.
Don't just look at the DAs, actually go in there and, do like a control find for a couple of basic keywords of the question you're trying to answer. And you can find out if they actually answered that question. And Google's super smart. So if you write something that actually answers that question, you could definitely take spot 1 for that.
That's a really, really good point. If people, it's kind of that, it is a little bit tricky learning it, but it's kind of that balance between figuring out if people are actually searching for this topic, and then can I answer that question better than anyone else is answering it? Hopefully that makes sense, guys.
Definitely a balance there.
Yeah. So this is a big one that I get all the time. I'm writing my blog post. I have my keyword and I know that it's a good keyword I could potentially rank for. How many times should I be using that keyword phrase in my blog post? Is there a limit, or what should I do?
I love that question. So when I first started writing for this first client and doing SEO for him, he's like, put every time you write an article, make sure to put the keyword in there 10 times and make sure to put it here and here and here and here, title and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. So that's what I'm doing, because that's when I first learned it. And then nowadays it's way different because Google is far smarter than that. There was a time where you could actually rank something. You could write about a whole different topic, but you could rank for it because you were just putting those certain keywords in there. And Google has become so much smarter. So even if you mention something, 15, 20, 40 times, it doesn't matter, because if you're not answering the question, it's not going to rank. So when it comes down to looking at your post, and I know a lot of people use Yoast, and I even use Yoast just for the heck of it. I look at it about half the time, but so let's say you put your main keyword in Yoast and you get a red light because it's you only put it in there twice, and you look through and you're like, well, I said it this way. Say I'm in the make money niche, so it's super easy for me to say I'm writing a post about how to make money, and then I said make money this way, or earn cash, or there's so many different ways you can say make money, and you're just writing naturally, and then you go back and reassess and you're like, do I need to put make money in there more times? And the answer is usually no. If it's your absolute main keyword, I do try to do it I never put it in there to be unnatural, but if it works to say the exact keyword, I'm going to say it a handful of times. Definitely not push for that 10 times unless it's a long article and it just naturally flows that way. Let's say if you're targeting like 5 different keywords and you totally can do this. You only have to say them once, to be honest. Here's a good example of when you might say them twice. Let's say you have an article and you say a keyword in a title, like an H2 or an H3. And then all I do is try to say that keyword one more time in that section. And often, like if somebody searches that keyword and it's relevant, Google might pull up that exact section because I've made it clear that both the title and within the title, I'm answering the question, basically. So yeah, you might your main keyword, sure, try to shoot for like 5 times, maybe more if it's a super long article. But don't think of it as like a number. Think of it as in terms of synonyms. Like if I'm talking about how to make money, naturally, I'm going to say things related to that phrase over and over. I mean, I would have to try not to at some point, you know? So if you're truly covering a topic, and again, we should talk about user intent in a minute here, but don't worry about like exact counts. Just don't worry about it.
I think that's the best advice you can give, is that we're not trying to stuff these posts full of keywords. People always get bent out of shape when Google does when Google does an algorithm update or whatever, right? But every time they do one, it makes me kind of happy because I'm like, they're getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Yeah. They're kicking all these spammers out of here that are posting stuff that's not relevant. We don't want to see that stuff. And so we're not fighting with Google. We're working with Google. We're working with search engines. We're trying to be natural, relevant, and not stuffing a bunch of keywords into this content. Would you say that's kind of what we need to aim for?
Exactly.
That's how I feel. We have a question. When should we pay more attention to page authority over domain authority? I use the Moz extension and it shows both. Oh,
I don't pay attention to page authority. Like it's a nice, it's a nice thing. Let's say if I go to a competitor's article and for whatever reason they have their domain authority is around mine, but for whatever reason their page authority for that article I'm considering is like really high, I might think twice about trying to compete for it because it's most likely, a matter of backlinks and stuff. And again, if you're using Moz, you can see how many backlinks they have. And don't get like I've outranked people with like 0 to 5 backlinks on an article, and they have like over 100. And you can get your hands dirty and try to look and see what actual backlinks they're getting. But a lot of sites, as soon as you go and publish an article, you might have a bunch of like little spammer weird websites following you, and immediately they're going to repost your blog post word for word, and it gives you a backlink, but it's not like Google doesn't count it because it's duplicate content anyway.
Right.
Sometimes Moz may or may not pick that up anyway. It's not like all of the backlinks that Moz picks up are legit or not, but that's honestly keywords and choosing the right one and knowing if you can rank for it. It kind of boils down to common sense, like looking at different elements and thinking a lot of people used to think like if I could just write a longer article or just a better article or put my keyword in there more times, like it's so much more than that. It really boils down to I might make a shorter article than a competition, and as long as I'm answering that query better than the other person, you don't even have to have perfect grammar. I know I don't. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to boil down to, this might be a good time to pull in user intent, because
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when somebody types something in Google, they have an intent behind their typing. Like there are different intents. Like maybe it's just information. I'm typing in a very basic keyword and I'm just looking for information. That's one intent. There might be, you might type something else in and you're looking, it's like a product name. I'm looking to buy something. There, that might not just be, that might not just include a product name. When somebody types in like best shoes for running or best shoes for hiking, that is a buyer intent keyword because more than likely they're not asking you to point out in their closet which ones are the best that they already own. Like they're looking to buy, new shoes for hiking or whatever it may be. Yeah. So you have to think about when you are keyword researching and you pick a keyword, you have to gauge what intent is behind it. When they choose that keyword, what are they looking for? And a good way to do this is to, again, go right to Google, type it in yourself, what kind of websites are showing up. If there's a ton of ads at the top and they're products, then that's a buyer keyword and it's probably very high, like it's probably hard to rank for. Not saying don't try it, but if you can see like the cost per click is super high, then it's a pretty high competition keyword. So that's one way to tell. If you type it in and nobody's bidding on it, again, you might not be doing ads, but you can still use that as a cue. Like, well, why is nobody bidding on it? Maybe because it's not a great keyword, So you can kind of gauge everything that Google provides right there is very helpful as long as you just know how to translate it. If you have never heard of user intent, I know I didn't go into like every single different one. Like for example, I have a second blog. It's not super popular or anything because I'm so busy and I do more like SEO freelance than I do blogging. Yeah. And I started this like mom blog and then I'm like, I don't like writing about mom stuff. I just don't. But yeah, as I was keyword researching for it, I would find things like certain keywords would bring up printables or they would bring up images. Like these are different. They are different intents because I wrote like this Disney post, and I think I used the case study in my book, but I wrote this Disney post that initially it looked super hard to rank for, but then I realized like, hey, what they're really bringing up are pictures and PDFs and stuff. And I was like, well, maybe I can get a foot in that way. So I just wrote to that end, made it very full of pictures and lists and stuff. So if you look at the results, it's just going to tell you what you need to do. If you're not including pictures and Google's like first shot is like all this conglomeration of pictures, you're probably not going to rank for it because that's what users are looking for. So always pay attention to what shows up. And if you, like I said, if you have never heard of user intent, there's a bunch of like Neil Patel and Backlinko. They all do like, they all do basic, informative help to get you on track with that because that is super important. Yeah. But that's also in my book. I list like a bunch of different ones, but it's so good to know. Yeah, it's so important to understand user intent. And like when we start blogging, we just kind of want to write. But when you really think about the fact that nobody's going to see your stuff if you're not writing something that people are actually searching for, and then your content doesn't fill the need that they intended to fill when they went to Google, then our time is kind of wasted. And so we really have to think about user intent for sure. Let's grab a few questions really quick before they get buried. Sure. I'm on BeLive, guys, and so I can't see your names. I'm sorry. But this question is, have you found success in topic clusters where a competitor ranks high, perhaps because of their domain authority, but they only have 1 or 2 articles on that topic, and you could write 6 blogs all on that topic? Yeah, definitely. So if you're in like a tight niche, or maybe you're in a niche where there's only 3 main, like for example, mine, I'm in like how to make money basically, and some how to save money. But I've found that if I write on like a topic, like a specific way to make money, and then I'm like, wow, I'm actually close to ranking for it, but it's taking a little longer than I wanted. And this goes with like some of the clients I've helped too. Like I will suggest a supporting topic that might help them. Like that supporting topic article might not rank. It may, you try to, but sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay, because it still feeds, what's the word I'm looking for? Like authority to the one you wanted in your content cluster. You usually have like a main one in your content cluster you want everybody to kind of get to, but then you have these like other breakoffs and stuff to give more information. But yes, absolutely. If you there's something you really want to rank for and you're close and you're like, what can I do? Aside from getting backlinks, which is also very helpful, definitely write more articles, but not articles. And I see down the line that the question about keyword cannibalization, this goes hand in hand. So don't write it in such a way that you're trying to answer that same exact question again. Like you still want it to be a break off on the topic as a whole, but it has to still answer a different question. Otherwise you could run into keyword cannibalization. And her specific question, is it keyword cannibalism if my keywords are just a couple letters off, but 2 totally different articles? I guess I'm not sure what a couple letters off means.
Maybe a couple words. Heather, clarify for us, are we writing on the exact same topic and the keyword is just a few different, or the phrase is just a few different words, or similar topic with a few different words? Clarify that for us just a little bit.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, Trinity, we can try to use similar keywords, but answering different questions. That's kind of.
Yes, it all comes back to user intent, because if you search, say you chose 2 different keywords here, it all goes back to user intent. Search them on Google, and if they are picking up the same or generally the same 10 articles, those 2 keywords should go in the same article. Because now if you 2 separate keywords and they're pulling up 2 separate, loads of articles on that front page, then yes, you can definitely target them in 2 separate articles. But I think she says, as an example, freelance writing niche versus freelance writing niches. Yeah, definitely. You'll save yourself so much time if you just put those in the same article. Yeah. Yep. Put them in the same article.
Yeah. As long as so she said that if they're answering totally different questions. Yeah. So if they're solving different problems or answering different questions, then you can do 2 different articles with similar keywords. Otherwise, just put them in the same article. That's the general rule.
Yeah,
we're saying keyword and keywords.
Yeah. You could definitely rank for both of them.
Okay, so this is a big one even for me. What are some general SEO behaviors that we should avoid when it comes to our keyword research and just generally trying to optimize our content?
Yeah. Don't. I might sound like I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes when I answer a question, like say in a blogging group, somebody asks a question. When I first started and first got into the blogging groups, I was like, oh yeah, like I've been doing SEO forever. I can hard and fast answer this question. And then as the more clients I've had and over time, I'm like, there are things that work for some that do not work for others.
Yeah.
So my answers are not always hard and fast. Like
it depends.
Something that works. Yes, there's a lot of depends in SEO, because you get so hung up on this checklist that is so exact. And I actually give away a I think there's 38 item checklists, but that doesn't mean every article is going to have 38 exact things done to it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of your articles might only hit on 15, and that's totally fine because the majority of the time you're just trying to make it the best article, and some things are going to apply this time while others aren't. So I think when you're doing SEO and you're getting frustrated and trying to make the perfect article, you just have to sit back and sometimes just think of it that way. You're writing the best article you can. What's interesting, intros I've seen, like when I hop on and see a competitor and see their intro, I'm like, well, I can do better than that because that's not interesting. Sure, it has their keyword in the first sentence, but is that going to catch readers, or is it going to make them feel like, that's boring? Like, I don't know if I want to do this. So definitely put a little effort into your intros, catch them with like something that might relate to them. Like, say if you're fishing, you might tell a little fishing story. And I'm saying little, like as in a paragraph or two, and definitely relate it to the search term. But that's like your opportunity to catch people and just make them interested in your topic, versus everybody thinks you just have to put that keyword in there as soon as possible. And that's not always true. So yes, I mean, of course you want your keyword in your title, and you want it somewhere toward the beginning of your article. You want it in heading. You want it where it's natural because you're talking about that topic, not because you're pushing to get it in there. So when you're doing SEO, just don't be hard on yourself, and don't think that if I don't write the perfect article the first time that you have no chance to rank for it later, because there's plenty of times where I don't put out like a bad article on purpose, but I might come back later and be like, I don't like it the second time I read it, so I'm definitely going to do a heavy overhaul, and that's totally fine. And then the second time around it ranks or whatever, so just don't be hard on yourself, and don't think that you have to have this hard and fast checklist that you must hit every time. And it's been a hard lesson for me to learn over time too, because I love lists and I love checking off items, but it doesn't always work that way.
We like our green lights on Yoast, but we don't need them.
No, you don't. Yeah.
And I think that's so important too, that we are writing for our readers too. And so we get hung up on, writing for Google, writing for these bots that are crawling our sites, and then forgetting that we're writing for our readers too. We need to make sure that they're enjoying it, that it's pulling them in, that it's capturing them, pulling them down to read the full post. We have to write for our readers too. So that's a really good reminder too.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that we didn't have any more questions over here. Okay, so other than Google itself, do you have any like tools or tips that you use that just make your keyword research a little bit easier?
So I used to use, and I still use, the free version of Keywords Everywhere. I still love it, and I still do, but I don't pay for the credits so I paid for the credits, and I was like, I used them up in like a couple weeks. I was like, wow, that was super fast. I guess I searched on Google more than I thought. So
you're an SEO person. You're going to use up those credits fast.
So I realized that you can still install Keywords Everywhere. It's a browser extension that basically, anytime you do a live search on Google, it gives you a list of like related keywords right along the sidebar. If you pay for the credits, those related keywords will have stats like the monthly search volume. That's really the only stat I care about. So it'll have the monthly search volume, which is helpful, because if you want to know generally, keep in mind that none of the free tools are actually super accurate. And honestly, some of the paid tools aren't even that accurate either. So don't get caught up in numbers like monthly search volumes and stuff. Just kind of use them as a range and think realistically. Like, I'm pretty sure more people are searching for make money than like 50 people a month. Like, just be logical about that. And there are times where I will pick a word that might have 0 to maybe 100 search volume per month. And that's okay, because more than likely you'll pick up more search phrases that are related. Maybe that exact phrase is searched 100 times a month or around there, but that doesn't mean there aren't like 50 to 100 more search phrases that are so similar. And it really does add up. So, so the Keywords Everywhere, I do still use it because it gives a very good list of related keywords. So when you choose one keyword and you don't want to just keep stuffing that one version of your keyword, you can totally pick a bunch of others that are related and put those in your article naturally as well. And the other one is called Keyword Surfer. It's very similar to Keywords Everywhere, but it actually gives the search volume and you don't have to pay for it. So it's free. But the reason I use them together is because Keyword Surfer has a terrible list of related keywords, whereas Keywords Everywhere has a great list of related keywords. So when I put them together, it's super helpful because I can see the volume here and then I can see the related keywords there. I also use Google's people also ask. So when you search something, you'll get like this drop down of questions. And as you click on a question, it'll populate more questions, and you click on another question, it populates more. So you could totally use those. Try to make them flow. Like a lot of people will do like a super long list of FAQ. You probably won't rank for that question unless it's super close to your topic and it like just flows into your blog post. If you're just doing like this huge long list of FAQ, it doesn't really work that way. But it's helpful to use those and just pick and choose the questions that are super related to what you're writing about. The Google related phrase at the bottom, there's like a list. There's a list of keywords that people also search for. One that I've found some pretty good keywords is when you type into Google and you're typing like how to do something, and then you're like, or say I'm in the make money niche and I'm getting bored of the regular topics to talk about, and I start typing how to make money, and then I do space and then an A or something. It will start populating like a bunch of like ideas. So Google tries to finish what you're trying to say. And as long as you give it some idea as to where you're going, like I said, for mine, it would be how to make money doing and then blank. As long as you give it those first words, it can come up with some good ideas. If you type A and then you do B and then you do C, and you can get some good topics that way. And if you have Keyword Surfer, I believe, activated, it will, when those topics populate, it'll show you the search volume. So you're like, oh, that has like, 100 to 500 to 1,000 search volume or plus, however much you're trying to go for. You click on it and, it gives you some good ideas. And then you don't have to just stop there. You can also look at your related keywords with the Keyword Everywhere extension and just be like, you kind of get into this rabbit hole. Like when I do keywords research in batches, because you get into this rabbit hole, you're like clicking on all these ideas and you're like, oh, you get to a point where you find stuff that people actually haven't dug into as far. So that's where you start to find the nuggets that you could really rank for. Yeah,
that's actually a really good tip for sure.
Yeah. So if you've never heard of that, it's a Google Chrome extension, the Keywords Everywhere, the Keywords Surfer. And also I do use Uber Suggest like for the to look up competitors. But the problem is with that, it's super far behind. It obviously doesn't crawl very often. Because even when I look at my own stuff, it's like way undercutting what I actually rank for and what I get. So I'm always wondering, like, if people are looking me up and they're thinking, like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't get any traffic. Like, well, if you're looking on that tool, it does, I'm sure. I mean, use me as a competitor. It looks like I'm doing poorly, so hopefully, but so you got to, just use it for ideas. And it's really all you could do. And of course, if you're going to pay for something like Ahrefs or what's the other one? SEMrush, like they're expensive, but they're going to do a little bit better on keeping up to date with competitor stuff.
I'm doing the free trial of Ahrefs right now because I'm taking Mike Pearson's Stupid Simple SEO, and that's what he uses. I think it's like $100 a month after the trial, but also I thought it was Ahrefs all these years. I just learned the proper way to say it when I'm taking Mike's course, and I feel really stupid.
That's awesome. No, it's actually confusing because like kind of spelled weird.
Ahrefs. But yes, it's overwhelming how much information they provide. Again, it's expensive, maybe not something I would pay for long term. But they do have a lot of information on your competitors, their searches, domain authority, backlinks, everything. But then I think a lot of times once you know what you're doing, like you said, even the free tools are really affordable tools, or just Google ends up being really powerful once you know what you're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah. We had one question right before we started. Someone asked how you can properly optimize your about page on your website. Do you have any tips or suggestions for optimizing your about page?
Yeah. Actually, it kind of goes beyond optimizing your about page. You can technically optimize every single blog post you write. So your about page, just be honest. They say it's about your reader, and then you catch your reader, tell them what they're going to learn, give them something, that kind of makes them feel like they're the spotlight. And that's great. And then if you have any kind of like official knowledge or experience in the niche you're talking about, definitely include that. But you don't have to, unless you're going with something like that requires specific certification, like if you're in personal finance and you're trying to tell people how to invest, it definitely gets a lot stickier as to what kind of stuff you should have.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that too much. I know there's there was like a whole thing about having to have authority on your topic. And yes, of course, if you're in like healthcare and you're trying to tell people how to, or what medicine, or, how to heal this or that, like absolutely you might get lost in the shuffle, because there does need to be a certain level of experience and even like degrees behind that. Yeah. But if you're like a mom and you're just talking about how to do something better, like you don't have to have, you don't really have to have specific experience. So I say that because when it comes down to like an individual blog post, like if I'm writing a blog post and I've ever done the thing I'm writing about, I am absolutely going to say that in the article, because like I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to lie and say I've done it when I haven't. But if I've done it, if you can say that, I'm almost certain that Google picks that up pretty fast. Because if there's other people out there, let's say you're doing a review on something and people are just giving like this secondhand review, they're just looking at the homepage of a website and saying, I'm going to do a review of this. And they're regurgitating like that information. Like, it might rank for a while. And, but once Google realizes, it's not in depth, or it's pretty much duplicate content, only just written a little bit differently. But if they start seeing things like, I did this and this is what happened, and you don't even have to say I the whole time, but even just in your intro, that will help. That's more important than anything you could put on your about page. It really boils down to topic by topic. I know a lot of people put so much importance behind their about page, but just be honest and put what experience you do have. If it's experience cooking in your own kitchen or raising your own children, just say that, or homeschooling your own children. That's all the experience you really need.
Yeah, your personal experience, basically. As long as you're not giving someone some outrageous advice, it's going to hurt them.
Yeah. If you do talk about like finances and stuff, like that's cool. I would definitely put that disclaimer in there. Like,
yes,
if you feel like it's a topic that needs a degree and you decide to write about it anyway, just make sure that you're covered and they know you're not a professional. Like, don't try to
Right.
be professional where you're not.
I'm not giving you professional advice. I'm just sharing my opinion.
Exactly.
Keep yourself out of a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think that answers that really well. If anyone else has any other questions, let us know. And then while we're waiting on any last final questions, just tell us what you're working on right now, where we can find you online so that we can follow along with you.
Yeah. So aside from just keeping busy with clients and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'm continuously, like, I go through spurts where I might not post for a month, like a new blog on my own blog. I might not post for a month, but that, I'm probably working on other blog posts, like updating blog posts and reassessing, like, did I write it okay in the first place, or does it kind of need a redo or just addition? So you can, everything about blogging is not always about finding new keywords and writing new posts. Like, definitely spend time on old blog posts. That's what I like to do. Other than that, I just kind of hang out day to day and just answer questions when I can. And honestly, I enjoy working from home and not having that, like, super strict schedule of do this at this time. But
yeah, I'm the same way. I would die if I had to go work for a boss again.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I like flexibility.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, if you ever wonder what I'm up to, you can always check out what I write on the Pay at Home Parent. And I try to get, like, actual people behind the posts that have either done it or I just do in-depth research. Like, I kind of felt like once you start a business, they're all similar. Like, they all have very similar steps, but, point people, and don't feel bad about pointing people to other resources. If you write a nice topic and you find somebody who did a good job on, like, I wouldn't link to somebody with, like, the exact same article, but don't feel bad. People are kind of stingy with backlinks, but don't feel bad if you're linking out to a super helpful source. I try to do that in my writing because I'm like, if I'm not going to go into any more detail or share people, and that's a good time to share your affiliate product too. Like, if like, a lot of times I write and look for courses or something, but just be helpful to your reader. Like, that is what honestly SEO is all about.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if we can't take anything else away other than that, just being helpful to your reader and answering their questions within your niche, I think is the most important thing for sure. Yeah. Let us know if you guys need any more clarification on anything. Do you have a Facebook group as well?
I do. It's called Get Your Blog Together.
Okay.
And it's similar to my ebook, which is called Get Your Keywords Together. I kind of a little catchphrase because I'm like, I could probably, I could do Get Your SEO Together. Like, I could do everything. So that's where you'll find me and a bunch of people that have bought my book. So if you're ever curious, like, if it's a book for you or if you'll actually learn something from it, you can always hop in my group, and there are a bunch of people who will answer. I'm not, like, honestly, I'm not extremely active in that group because I'm there for questions. Most people email me questions because when it comes to keywords and SEO, you're like, you don't necessarily want to, like, point out the keywords you're trying to rank for, because chances are people are they're going to see that. Like, if you're in a Facebook group and you're like, I want to rank for how to do this or something. Yeah. I'm telling you for sure, people are immediately typing that into Google and seeing if they can rank for it too. So that's why a lot of my people actually contact me privately. And but I'm in the group because if it's a generic question or if I come up with a tip, I like to share it there. Yeah. But then again, like, I'm like analytical. I'm not super, like, chatty. It's hard to explain, but the Facebook isn't my fun. It's not like the most fun thing for me, but I'm always happy to be available to answer questions and stuff.
Yeah. And then Trinity's here with us in this group too, guys. So if you guys need anything from her keyword wise, she's got your back. You can tag me or her. She knows more about this stuff than I do. But I'm really glad that you were here to answer our keyword questions. I appreciate you so much. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us today.
Absolutely. I hope everybody's doing awesome.
Yes. And if you guys have any more questions or need clarification on anything, let us know. You can tag us in the comments. We can get back to you guys later. But we'll wrap this one up for now so we can keep it under an hour. And Trinity, we'll talk again soon, okay?
Awesome.
Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon.